Hell Let Loose is one of the most immersive and realistic World War II shooters out there. If you're new to the game, it can feel very overwhelming at first with its massive maps, complex mechanics and intense teamwork. But don't panic just yet. Today I'm going to be giving you a complete beginner friendly guide to help you hit the ground running. Starting off with the basics, Hell Let Loose is not your typical run and gun shooter. It's a tactical, team-based World War II simulation with 100 player battles split into two teams of 50. The goal is simple: capture and hold territory by pushing the front lines forward or defending your ground. There are three key objectives with every game of Hell Let Loose: capturing sectors, resources and teamwork. You can't win games in Hell Let Loose without capturing sectors. In the warfare game mode, the maps are divided into three sectors to start with the blue being your own territory, the red being enemy territory and the amber one being neutral ground until the first point is captured. If you play in the offensive game mode and you're on the offensive team, then all the map will be red to start with and be enemy territory until you capture each point, where you will then gain the territory. If you're on the defending team, you'll have the entire map to play with until you lose a point, and then that will become enemy territory. In the warfare game mode, the key is to battle over each objective on offense and defense, and the end goal is to get into the enemy's HQ sector and capture that to win the game. For the offensive game mode, if you're on the offensive team, you'll have to capture a series of points leading all the way down the map in order to win the game. And if you're defending, you will need to defend each of those points. The enemies will have a set time limit to capture each point. Should you defend it for that amount of time, you will then win the game. Resources are generated passively from the start of the game at 30 resources a minute, but should your engineers build nodes, you can then get this up to 60 resources per minute for each of the three categories. You cannot win a game without adequate resources. Having resources allows people to use the artillery guns, and it also allows your commander to spawn in things such as vehicles, airstrikes and more supplies to build garrisons further on the map. The most important objective in Hell Let Loose is teamwork. Individual glory means nothing if your team isn't working together. Nobody has ever won a war on their own, and nobody ever will. You have to learn to play as a team, you have to play well within your squad and communicate effectively, and if you're a squad leader, you have to communicate with other squad leaders and the commander. You'll need to understand how each role fits into the larger strategy, as there are many roles that you can play in this game, but first we'll just cover the fundamentals of the gameplay. Let's take a look at the user interface, or the HUD. Hell Let Loose keeps things minimal to preserve immersion, but there are some key features that you need to understand. Starting off at the top of the screen, you'll find your team's progression, capturing sectors and the overall map control. Right in the centre at the bottom, you'll find your compass. This is very important for navigation and communicating with your team. And in the bottom right, you'll find your health, stamina and ammo. Make sure you keep an eye on this, especially during firefights. One of the most important things in Hell Let Loose is the map. You will rely on this lots, and so will your team. Hit the key M on your keyboard to open it. This will be your lifeline for understanding the broader battle, where to spawn and how to coordinate with your squad. Moving on to the fun part, which is choosing the right role, i.e. which gun are you going to use and how are you going to play the game on the battlefield. Choosing the right role for your playstyle is the first decision you'll make each match. Hell Let Loose features different roles with infantry, armour and artillery units. For beginners, I'd definitely recommend starting with the rifleman or the medic roles, and here's why. Starting off with the rifleman, you'll be equipped with a basic rifle. Rifleman is perfect for learning the game. Your job is simple: support your squad by holding objectives, laying down fire and dropping ammo crates. And for the medic, medics are invaluable for reviving down teammates. If you enjoy helping your team and staying in the back line, then this is a great starter role. You'll be equipped with extra bandages and morphine in order to revive your teammates and to bandage them when needed. In Hell Let Loose, teamwork is everything. You'll spawn into a squad and your officer is in charge of leading you, setting rally points and communicating with other squads. As a beginner, your job is to follow your officer's orders, stick with your squad and help however you can. There are a few key roles within each squad. You have your squad officer, which is your leader. They will set spawn points, give orders and communicate with command and other squad leaders. You'll have the support / engineer role, which provides supplies to build defences, ammo, spawns and nodes. You'll have a machine gunner that lays down suppressive fire to pin enemies down. And last but not least, you'll have your anti-tank that deals with enemy vehicles and tanks. I cannot stress enough how important communication is. Use proximity chat to talk to nearby teammates and use your squad chat to coordinate with your squad. Make sure to be clear and concise because nobody likes spammed mics. One of the biggest challenges for new players playing Hell Let Loose is knowing where to spawn and how to navigate the maps. as all of them are absolutely massive. The map is huge, and if you're not careful, you'll spend more time running or dead than fighting. When it comes to choosing your spawn point, you have a few key places. First of all being garrisons. These are main spawn points built by your team's officers and are often far from the front lines. Outposts, which are smaller spawn points placed by your officer, usually closer to the action. And your HQ points, the furthest back spawn, use these as a last resort. When spawning, always check your map and front lines. Spawn at outposts closer to the action to minimise downtime, but avoid dropping directly into heavy combat. Sometimes it's better to spawn further back and approach strategically. Hell Let Loose features realistic gunplay, meaning there's no crosshair and the time to kill is extremely fast. There's no hit markers either for any of you coming from COD or Battlefield. A single shot can take you down, so you need to be precise and play smart. ADSing is key in combat. Always aim down your sights. Hip firing is inaccurate, especially at range. If you're clearing trenches and there's someone right next to you, then just give them a bit of a hip fire. But when it comes to engaging in proper combat, make sure you're always using your sights. If you're using a fully automatic gun, fire in short bursts as opposed to just holding down the trigger. There's a lot of recoil and sometimes the accuracy can stray, especially if you're not getting any response as to whether you're hitting your shots or not. So make sure to fire in short bursts to keep the recoil to a minimum. Use cover. Always stay behind cover. You will not sponge bullets. It's not like Call of Duty. You will not be able to revive with a quick tap of LB. You will not just be able to slide through all the bullets. You will get shot and you will die very quickly. So make sure you always use the cover that's available to you. There's loads of things around the map, such as walls, houses, bushes that bullets for some reason can't go through. And use your tanks. Use everything around you for cover. Make sure just to pop up intermittently and not stand there and ask to get headshotted, and make sure you use the lean function as much as possible to get the best angles possible and reduce the sights that the enemies will have on you. Just keep in mind this is a tactical shooter. Running and gunning will only get you killed. Move methodically, check your surroundings and use cover to outsmart your enemies. Resource management is a key part of Hell Let Loose's strategic layer. As you capture sectors, your team gains resources such as manpower, ammo and fuel. These are used for calling in artillery strikes, deploying tanks and other vehicles, and building structures around the map. If you're playing support or engineer, your job is to help build the garrisons and defensive structures like bunkers or barbed wire. These are critical for holding territory and pushing forward and giving your place a team to spawn. If you're playing as the support role and you're in friendly territory, you can go and drop your supplies down and get your squad leader or the commander if he's nearby to build you a garrison. If you're the engineer, make sure you spawn in, get a supply truck or get some supplies dropped for you and build all the nodes available. You'll also gain passive XP throughout the entire game with these nodes down, even if you change roles. So make sure at the start of the game, if nobody's built any nodes, change to engineer, get your nodes down and then change to the role that you want. No matter which role you're playing, make sure you pay attention to where your team is building. Protect these locations and call in for help if you see enemies trying to sabotage them. If you're interested in vehicle play, Hell Let Loose has a range of options, from tanks to transport trucks. Tanks require a coordinated crew to operate effectively. You'll need a driver, a gunner and a commander working together to be effective on the battlefield. That's why I'd recommend for beginners the best way to help is by using transport trucks. You can use these to move your team quickly to the front lines or back from the front lines if you need to. Just be careful though, driving through enemy territory can get you ambushed, so stick to safe routes when possible. And finally, we have playing the objective. One of the most common mistakes for new players is forgetting to play the objective. I was guilty of it, you're probably guilty of it. There's a lot of people that are guilty of it. When you first start playing, it's so easy to get immersed in racking up kills and exploring the map. But if your team isn't holding or capturing any objectives, you're not contributing to the war effort. Always be paying attention to where the current objective is and prioritise helping your team either defending or push the enemy off. Stick with your squad. Use smokes to provide cover and stay near objectives to give your team the edge. Just to wrap up with a bit of an emphasis on some of the most important tips for beginners. Make sure you stick with your squad, do not wander off alone, teamwork will win battles. Be patient. Hell Let Loose is about strategy, not fast-paced action. Stay calm and play smart. Communicate. Use your mic to call out enemy positions and coordinate with your squad. And make sure that you learn from your mistakes. Every match is a learning experience, so don't get discouraged. The learning curve for Hell Let Loose is a lot tougher to break than what it is on games such as Call of Duty and Battlefield. Hell Let Loose is, in my opinion, incredibly difficult to learn for beginners, and even now I'm still learning things about it after hundreds of hours of gameplay. It's a very challenging game, but it is incredibly rewarding. Once you get the hang of it, those massive chaotic battles becomes some of the most intense and satisfying experiences you can find in a multiplayer game. And that will be all for my beginner's guide to Hell Let Loose. Whether you're new to the game or just looking to brush up on the basics, remember this game is all about teamwork, patience and tactical thinking. Stick with it and soon you'll be doing alright on the battlefield. If you did enjoy this guide or found it useful in any way, please hit the like button, make sure to subscribe for more guides in the future and more gameplay, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next.